New details emerge about 5 members of a family killed in a California car crash. We now know that 3 are still missing.
My child's still in there, and my child's a fighter. She always has been.
And the mother of a driver involved in a fatal Highway 26 crash is speaking out as her daughter is still in the hospital.
And a break in a Salem boarding facility as it releases 26 dogs. How the community helped round them up just ahead.
Live from the KOIN Center in downtown Portland, this is KOIN 6 News. Watching out for you.
Tonight, really heartbreaking developments about a fatal car crash with ties to the Northwest. 2 women and their 3 children were in the car when it crashed over a cliff in California, and 3 of their other children are still missing. This is KOIN 6 News at 5 o'clock. I'm Jennifer Hoff.
And I'm Dan Tilkin in for Jeff tonight. We're learning more about the local family who died after their car drove off that cliff in California. We have live team coverage as this story develops. Let's begin right now with Trevor Auld, who's been closely monitoring the investigation.
Dan, we just learned from the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office that they believe the entire Hart family, all 8 of them, were likely in this SUV when it plunged 100 feet over a cliff on the California coast. This is a look at the scene today. It's from the Fort Bragg Advocate News. After the Hart family turned onto that dirt pullout off Highway 1, they drove over the cliff and fell onto the rocks below. We know the car was driven by 38-year-old Jennifer Hart. Her wife Sarah was in the passenger seat, and we know for certain that 3 of their 6 adopted children were killed in the fall. 19-year-old Marcus, 14-year-old Jeremiah, and 14-year-old Abigail. But now the search is on for the 3 remaining children, 12-year-old Sierra, 16-year-old Hannah, and finally 15-year-old Devontae Hart. You may remember him. He is the boy here from the iconic 2014 photo, tearfully hugging a Portland police officer at a protest against police brutality. Well, moments ago at a press conference, the Mendocino County Sheriff's Office said there are questions about this crash that will never be answered, but based on what they found, it's likely the whole family was in the SUV.
They were in the SUV at the time of the vehicle accident. And when I say the entire family, we have every indication to believe that all 6 children were in there. However, only 3 bodies have been recovered.
Again, that is an early estimation. They don't know for certain the other 3 children were in the car. Sheriff Allman did say the investigation has a long way to go. He called the scene confusing because there were no skid marks, no signs Jennifer Hart had hit the brake near the cliff. He also said at this point there's no evidence or reason to believe that driving the vehicle over the cliff was an intentional act. Dan and Jennifer, we also learned that the firefighters and investigators who rappelled down to the vehicle noticed that the engine was cold when they got there, and some of the wheel wells had been warmed by the sun. That's leading them to believe this car had been on the rocks over the cliff for hours before it was first reported. They don't believe anyone saw this happen, and now they're hoping somebody saw this family in the day before that crash, maybe at a restaurant or at a grocery store, so that they can try to piece things together. As I mentioned, it will be years, maybe never, before we get some of these questions answered. Back to you guys.
Hopefully there's a witness out there that can fill in some of these blanks. Now, KOIN was the first report. This family has a history with Child Protective Services, both in the last few days and several years ago. The Clark County Sheriff was asked to go to the house in Woodland Monday to check on the 6 kids after CPS got an anonymous call. Deputies say CPS had already sent a caseworker to the house twice before to check on the family without getting anyone to come to the door. Then yesterday, the day after the crash, California authorities asked the sheriff to check the house again for the 3 missing kids. Deputies tell us everything appeared normal, but there was no sign of the children. And we also learned that in 2011, one of the women, Sarah Hart, was convicted of domestic assault against the couple's 6-year-old daughter. Court records from Minnesota say a teacher discovered bruises on the girl's back and stomach. Sarah said they've been having behavior issues with their daughter and admitted she let her anger get out of control and bent the child over the edge of a bathtub and spanked her. And we're also talking with the couple who called Child Protective Services on the family, their neighbors up in Woodland. Our Cole Miller is here now with those details. And Cole, they were pretty worried right away after they saw CPS do that door knock.
Jennifer, that's exactly right. They tell me that all happened just on Friday, that they knew the family was home, but no one came to the door, no one answered. As they put it, this was yet another disturbing sign that something was very wrong. That couple, Bruce and Dana DeKalb, say the family moved in nearby back in May of last year, and from then until now, rarely saw saw them, but tell us they did see those children off and on, and it was almost always when they were in some kind of trouble. The DeKalbs described those children as thin and small given their ages, adding at one point one of the boys came by asking for food. At first, just a few things, but it kept happening, even asking them to leave food by a nearby fence so that he could come and get it, saying his mother was withholding meals from him. Also, late last year, they say a little girl came over in the middle of the night covered in blackberry thistle, asking to be driven up to Seattle, that she did not want to go back home.
They portray this happy little family, and yet, you know, the night before, their daughter's telling us, please, 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 begging us not to make her go back and that they were abusing her. And then Devontae coming over here and telling us that, you know, he's being starved to death and they're mean. And
just heartbreaking to hear that. Now, we also spoke with neighbors in West Lynn, where the family used to live. They tell us they really kept to themselves and lived a pretty private life. As for that Woodland couple, they also tell us they worry no one knew exactly what was going on, because had someone known, something more probably would have been done. Now, it is worth mentioning I'll be talking to a family friend here shortly who says they were nothing short of amazing. We hope to have her story coming up a little later tonight. For now, we'll send it back to you.
Nicole, we are hearing from close friends of the family who had nothing but positive things to say about the Hart family.
For that part of the story, we go to our Chris Holmstrom, who joins us live from their home in Woodland. Chris?
Yeah, Jennifer, I spoke with several family friends. They tell me they are heartbroken by what happened, but they wanted to share with me what kind of a family this was.
The kids were angels. They always beamed with smiles. And
devastating news for loved ones of the Hart family. 2 mothers with 6 adopted children.
The Hart family, in my mind, are some of the most precious beings on the earth that we've met.
Max Ribner and Christina Pescatori are close family friends, all of them a big part of the local music community.
Anytime they would show up to an event, they would show up with just an overwhelming energy of love.
He goes on to say the family always stood out, whether it be family music festivals or rallies. In fact, in 2014, this picture went viral. It shows Devontae, one of the missing kids, giving a hug to a police officer. It was during protest over the shooting in Ferguson, Missouri.
The Hart family were such a great, and still are, a living legacy of bringing our people together, and the importance of community and the importance of racial equality and the importance of freedom.
I asked them about visits from CPS, and they tell me there were no signs of child abuse, but that the kids faced challenges before they were adopted.
And they took day by day, hour to hour, moment to moment to help them rejuvenate and help teach them language and help teach them how to be here with community.
He goes on to say that their parents turned their life around, giving them the outlet of music.
I believe in joy. I believe in great things.
This, one of many songs Max and his band produced with the Hart family. He says this message fits them perfectly.
They really found the goodness in everybody. And I hope that we can all really learn a really beautiful lesson in that and carry that legacy on.
I believe we all have good hearts. I believe we're all one person.
So Chris also asked him if they knew why the Hart family was in California. They didn't know, but said that the family was always traveling. Now, we have continuing coverage on this. We have much more as the story unfolds. So you can always check KOIN.com or our Facebook page.
Also tonight, we know that employees were really scrambling to try to locate some missing dogs this morning after a burglar broke into a dog boarding facility and let the pets loose. It happened at the Dog Bark on 13th and Hoyt in Salem. Our Jennifer Dowling shows us how the dogs escaped in this crime alert.
After the burglars broke in by smashing this window, they then left this door ajar, giving the dogs the opportunity to disappear.
I saw 2 little Pomeranian dogs running down the alleyway right there.
John Sheets believes he saw 2 of the escapees from the Dog Bark boarding center early this morning.
I was throwing out an old ham bone and stuff like that, and they kind of came up and sniffed me for a minute, and then they kept on going.
He says he tried to call but didn't know how to reach employees after hours at the Dog Bark. Like others we talked to, he was surprised someone broke in and let them out.
I was shocked. I mean, who would think that anybody would break into a dog care center?
Libby Sile is a customer here.
Like, there's no, fancy computer equipment. There's no safe with money. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Salem police say the break-in happened at around 2:30, and a tow truck driver and a resident helped them round up 9 dogs right away. A white and brown pup named Sunny and a schnauzer named Jovi were found late this morning. A gray shepherd mix named Kahlua was still missing as of this afternoon.
We don't have any similar incidents like this. We don't know what the motivation for the person was, if their main goal was to release the animals or if it was to go in and steal other items.
Owner Shannon Harvey was driving the neighborhood looking for Kahlua today. She told me by phone it was a rough morning. Libby says the break-in makes her a little nervous.
Well, not for daycare particularly, but at night. You know, if they're boarded at night, then that would be my concern.
Shannon printed out these flyers to post in the search for Kahlua, and police are also searching for the suspect or suspects. If you have any information on who broke in here, make sure to call Salem Police. In Salem, Jennifer Dowling, KOIN 6 News.
Now at 5, we're hearing from the mom of a Portland teen involved in a deadly car crash on Highway 26. She says it's a miracle her daughter is alive.
I work with her constantly because I'm a fighter, my child's a fighter. She's going to pull through this. I have faith. That's all I can say is faith, and faith's brought us this far. You know, faith turned the word from if she's going to make it to when she's going to make it.
The crash near Timber Junction killed 2 people and injured 5 others. Police say that Kaylin Potter lost control of her Chevy Trailblazer, hitting a Toyota Tacoma in the oncoming lane. The Trailblazer hit another car. Kendra Cornwell, a 19-year-old from Gresham, died at the scene. So did Tom Bonneville, an 80-year-old passenger in the 3rd car.
Also tonight, police need your help finding this missing woman. 76-year-old Wenzhen Chen was last seen yesterday morning, and we told you even last night at 11 o'clock that she was missing and still is today. We know she lives downtown and likes to take long walks, sometimes up to 10 miles a day. Now, police just released this new surveillance photo of her. She's wearing a light-colored jacket printed with blue flowers on it and green leaves, and she also has on dark pants. Her family has reason to believe she may be in crisis. Again, this is 76-year-old Wenzhen Chen. If you know where she is, be sure to call police.
Firefighters went to a brush fire on the side of I-5 in Salem overnight. It started just before midnight near Chamawa Road Northeast. Fire crews were able to get the flames under control. We don't know how it started.
And there's new funding for education in Washington. This is a big deal. Governor Jay Inslee just signed a supplemental state budget, bumping the $43.5 billion two-year state budget up to $44.6 billion. Much of that extra funding now going towards education. It settles the final piece of a long-running Supreme Court case to fund basic education that goes back to 2012. The budget also provides funding for mental health, health care, and higher education.
Still to come, neighbors on West Burnside are complaining a loud noise overnight is waking them up, while the city says this demolition has to happen in the middle of the night.
Plus 5 gang shootings in just 24 hours. Coming up, we're sitting down with the Portland police chief to get her thoughts on a new city audit, too, about how the Bureau is handling these incidents.
And Oregon is jumping on board, joining a lawsuit challenging the Trump administration, while the state is against adding a question to the 2020 census.
And something you've been waiting for, the sunshine. It's here. Looking at a live picture from the Dalles, temperature there 56 degrees. We're looking at some low 60s and possibly some mid 60s in the forecast. All those details coming up.
There's a crash right now on Highway 219. That is between Mountaintop Road and Santa Maria Drive. This is not causing any congestion. Now, there is congestion on 217 southbound. Is slowed down to Denny, 12 minutes here to I-5. Northbound has some congestion just after Shoals Ferry. It picks up after Denny. On I-205 northbound, it's 21 minutes here up to Highway 224. That stretch up to Vancouver is 19 minutes. And look at I-5 northbound. A lot better than it was earlier. Still 50 minutes.